Today, we are completing our 3-round 2026 NFL mock draft with trades. Let's get right into this. If you are new, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. Go check out the first video. We're still going to be doing a quick recap looking at the trades, but it's always more fun to watch it the first time. It was a 55-minute episode. I talked a bit longer than normal, but there were some certain topics that I definitely wanted to iron out. Some really cool trade ideas that we'll be discussing in short. Here, below my face is my board. It is not predictive. These are the players that I love in the order I love them, only based on all 22 game tapes. So I do hold that as my little, my little bar for me to at least get past for all these players, because I think consistency is key. And there's a lot of ways that you can start kind of bending the rules and end up creating a lower quality product. Am I going to be right 100% of the time? Absolutely not. But if I'm honest 100% of the time, that means I get to learn from my mistakes 100% of the time instead of bullshit, y'all. Let's get into this. Starting out, let's review what happened. We actually had a pretty clean slate of trades up until the 9th overall pick, where Kansas City and the Cowboys ended up going and flopping from 9 to 12. And you might say, Dallas doesn't have a second pick in the first round, or excuse me, in the second round. They don't even have a second round pick. What the hell happened? You traded 2 ones to go up 3 spots? Yes. But not just 2 ones. Kansas City was very generous and said, you know what? We'll take the second one. We're going to give you our second and third round as part of that, as collateral. And I think I ended up tossing in a future round 4 pick as well. That's a little bit more up in the air. It's not really going to affect this mock draft. That's something where you can use your own consolation. But I ended up saying for the Cowboys, the value of the player that would be there at 12, significantly worse. And I felt getting Ruben Bain Jr. to be that more big, physical, consistent edge had a lot of value. And then again, a second and a third round pick. So sorry, Chiefs fans, we do still have some picks that we can end up trading up into the rounds for, but you'll see very soon. I'm very happy with the takeaway. But we continue on. People continue to get pissy about Keldrick Falk to the Bengals. I try to blend my board with realism. I don't believe Keldrick Falk's a top 10 player, but it does appear that, the consensus believes him to be. I like to provide my own twist on a mock draft, because if you guys watch everything that I solely would do, it doesn't necessarily make for very good content. You want to at least understand what the hell is going on and not have to watch 2 different mock drafts to see what's realistic versus what solely I would do. Again, that's why I have my board below my face. But via that trade back, so Dallas moved up to get Ruben Bain. The Chiefs moved back to get Jeremiah Love. And again, that's not the only pick the Chiefs made in this round, nor was it the only trade. So at number 13, we had a quick swap here because I was trying to move up with the Jets for Peter Woods. I said, hell nah, I'm going to do a very small range trade with the Ravens. They move up and swap with the Rams just to secure their guy. The Rams get a little extra draft capital and get the player I was going to take at 13 in Mekhi Lemon. As we continue on, we actually ended up having another trade. The Minnesota Vikings traded with the Chiefs. Remember, the Chiefs got that pick number 20 from the Cowboys. They moved up and jumped the Panthers for Kenyon Sadiq. So the Chiefs ended up saying, defense, what the hell is that? We're going to get someone like Trey Hendrickson to provide the floor. And guess what? We're now going to have Jeremiah Love and Kenyon Sadiq to be able to fill the 2 massive vacancies on this offense and continue to provide youth and value for a team that doesn't really have much of an answer. But very happy with that solution right there. Again, let me know what you guys think. I honestly don't think it's out of the realm of possibility either. The Hunts, the Chiefs ownership family, have very strong ties to Dallas. They are, if I'm not mistaken, from Dallas, my school that I'm an alma mater from, or my alma mater, SMU, literally has a Hunt scholarship. Their kid was going to school the same time I was there. So I'm going to say they have some good ties to Dallas. And so it is definitely something where they're going to be talking pretty consistently. And I think it's very possible with the way the Cowboys have structured their picks. And my dumbass apparently said they don't have any future ones. I was meaning to say I ended up sending their future one, not the one for Green Bay. So that's on me. Good on you for calling me out about that. But via that trade back, Vikings get Jermod McCoy. The Texans and Buffalo Bills ended up swapping picks. Caleb Lomu was the falled out selection for the Texans, and then TJ Parker was the consolation prize there for the Bills. And that was it. I do believe that, if I could, rewind time a little bit, I try to be a little bit more aggressive with the trade back with the Seattle Seahawks, given how few picks they have. Good on you guys for continuing to bring up great ideas like that as we continue to test theories through all of this. Of course, I've tried to do my best to be able to keep my board up to date. That is my goal. Whenever I see a player who is returning to school, I do my best to just instantly take them off the board because the Patreon, you beautiful people, you guys get to end up checking out my big board, all my evaluations, all that for $5 a month. And I want to make sure you guys get up-to-date content. Number 33, New York Jets. It's been a long enough time at the start of the video. Also, shout out to my sister. She ended up getting me a custom flag. And as you can see, my camera's flipped, so it's not going to be legible to you. But number 35 for the Jets, we went Dante Moore and Denzel Boston to start out. My vision for this team, and again, just quick little ground rule, we're having Ty Simpson, Trinidad Chambliss return. Trinidad's trying to return. I assume they're going to grant it. And then Ty Simpson, I think, really needs to. But my thing is, the Jets, people say it's like the worst place to go, yada this, yada that. I'll just say, with Dante Moore and Denzel Boston, maybe they can end up acquiring an interior offensive lineman. I think they should just, re-sign who they have and maybe get their sixth man a little bit more down the board. That all being said, it's one of the most underrated offenses with the quarterback in place and an actually good play caller in the entire league. It's the most underrated. Who has two young superstar bookend tackles, would have then a complete interior offensive line, star running back, because I assume you franchise tag Brees and do all that stuff, and then have a completed receiving core with Boston and Wilson as well as A.D. Mitchell. And then you have Mason Taylor there as well. It's just, it's very hard to find a young, talented core like that. And again, we got two of the most important things, which is, a possession receiver that is a quality possession receiver and your star quarterback. That all being said, we need to focus on the defense. And there's a lot of very good players here. You got Amari Washington, who honestly I've underrated. I think this guy's a stud. I just ended up watching him today versus Jennings Dunker as I updated his grade. And again, I used to push Jennings Dunker higher and higher. I think I'm going to start pushing him lower and lower. Christian Miller's the player I'm looking at. He just declared a couple of days ago. To me, he's a top 10, 15 player in the class. And he's an absolute savage. I mean, really, really impactful. His ceiling plays are absolutely dominant. And that he has a lot of NFL tape out there. And when you lose Quentin Williams for a first-round pick, it's kind of cool to be able to go and get Christian Miller for essentially a second. And again, if I'm the Seahawks, maybe I'd do some negotiating with the Jets and get maybe a fourth-round pick out of the deal for that fifth-year extension and, move down a little bit because you're a little bit more in win now. Cisse could end up being what you do there, and the Jets could get more of a longer-term option there. But regardless, at number 34, we had the Arizona Cardinals, who took CC Maui Noah at number 3. There is the risk of him going to guard. That is a very, very tough risk to handle. However, I do think that based on how he's played right now through the playoff, he's been able to handle players who have longer arms than him, and he's done a really good job polishing up. He passed the eye test when I saw him in person. I'm very happy with him overall. So sitting here at number 34, I think you do need to look at a couple positions. So first off, you can talk about quarterback. Once again, I said at the start of this episode, we are not having Ty Simpson come out. I don't think John Mateer is coming out either. That's something we could discuss later on, but Trinidad Chambliss, I assume, is not. No quarterback's worth 34. None of them are. So running back, you could try to toss in Jadarian Price at this point. It's very, very expensive for that level of impact. I'm not a fan of that. Wide receiver, there's nobody here that I think would be a positive impact in that regard. And again, we've already drafted our offensive linemen. So let's look at the defense. I'm looking at linebacker right now, and there's some really, really good ones on the table. One that I like, who is super young and is going to be a really strong part of this team, who can be a Mike linebacker, has aspects of being a really good Sam linebacker as well, is Josiah Trotter. He is looked at as a top 50 pick. He is extremely young. The thing is, he's a good blitzer and actually has some really good zone instincts as well. So you have a really strong foundation here with somebody who's very young and very explosive. The question is there another player that a team should try to move up for? Keith Abney is one. And for the Cardinals, again, you're no longer with Gannon. You're going to be looking at alternative options. But you have Abney and Johnson that are sitting here. And there's a pretty big drop-off. I love Davison Igbinosun. That's my thing. But I do know that will probably scare people. But those are the next three. Keontae Scott's a baller. He's a nickel. So we're going to talk about him in a different category than I guess some of these guys could be considered that way. But the other ones all have boundary applications in the way that Keontae Scott does not. And I think Keontae is 24 or 25. So it's going to be tough to justify a DB at that point. I do like a trade here, though. So let's look at teams that would be looking for a defensive back. The Cowboys are one of them. I mean, we do have a couple teams in here, including one in division that could be very excited to go after a corner. Again, the Cowboys ended up making that big trade up for Ruben Bain and ended up getting the second and third round pick out of it. So let's theorize a trade here. So the Cowboys sitting here, they have a really nice set of picks. I don't think it would cost their third round pick. I think it would cost 112 to make the move up here. My only problem with that would be like that's pretty fucking expensive, right? For a corner, that's pretty damn expensive because they only have one position so far addressed, and that's that edge room. They could end up going after a multitude of options at this point. Granted, not a ton of them that are good because unfortunately, edge is one of the ones that is kind of slipping at this point. But definitely something where, if you wanted defensive interior, I'd feel a lot more comfortable at 40. You know what? The Cowboys are going to get aggressive. They get what they want. Jerry, he doesn't have that much of a control over the team. But for the Cardinals, I'd feel pretty happy with this as well. If I just get pick number 112, I'm just curious. If you get pick number 112, I'm happy out of this deal for Arizona. And for the Cowboys, if I get to move up at this point, and then you can end up selecting your star boundary corner, you end up getting Ruben Bain, and then whether it's Keith Abney or Chris Johnson, you choose. Now, I hear Keith Abney is in the 5'10 range. He's listed 6 foot. But if he's 5'10, can discuss it. Chris Johnson has been phenomenal, and his zone instincts remind me a lot of how they valued Kalen Carson back in the day. And he is somebody who will also be a top 50 pick. And I'm going to go after the true boundary aspect of Chris Johnson at this point. And again, if you don't want Chris Johnson, you want Keith Abney, I completely understand. Abney's my 22nd best player, but you can end up swapping it with the Titans because since I went Carnell Tate in the first, I need to value defense here. And so we're going to go Keith Abney, corner out of Arizona State there at number 35. So again, if you don't like it for the Cowboys and want Keith Abney at 34, do it. I'm more of a fan of Chris Johnson for their particular system, and I don't really see many corners fitting that down the board the way that Keith Abney, or the way that Chris Johnson does. But again, flip the two. I don't care. I'd be happy with either of them. It's just I'm saying why I like Chris Johnson more. 36, Las Vegas, Fernando Mendoza, the number 1 selection. And I do think based on, I don't fully understand. Someone can end up explaining why the Raiders would have number 36 of all things. Let me know. But we're going to assume that PFF, since I didn't mess with the draft order, is doing this correctly. But the Vegas Raiders, they already got their QB on lock. Very happy with them for doing that. Blake Miller's an option here. You got to get a good offensive line coach. I ended up grading him today. Blake Miller to me is about around 100 on my big board. There's a lot of inconsistency, but if you put him in the right spot, I think he can be a real star. Very, very good pass protector. And again, right tackle, definitely something the Raiders need. 35-inch arms, really valuable. You're going to have a new coach coming in. Definitely something where you don't want that being on the forefront of your mind as to whether your quarterback is going to be protected. And it's a weak tackle class. It's a very weak tackle class. Again, we don't even have Trevor Gooseby at this point. And God bless PFF for taking some of these guys out. And guess who they added? I've been bitching about this all year long. Eli Raritan on this, baby. So happy. Not saying for the Raiders. Don't worry about that. I just needed time to rant for a second. But we're going to go Blake Miller, tackle out of Clemson. I'm not going to play games. Simply put, Blake Miller has the measurables that you're looking for. He has the mobility you're looking for. I don't like the fact that he's not a mauler, which does kind of, it's counterintuitive compared to what you got last year with Rodgers for the Texas Tech offensive lineman. There is certainly a little bit of a mentality gap there, but Blake Miller in pass protection can handle speed. I think he needs to continue working on his consistency versus power, but he is shown to be able to re-anchor, have a wide base. It's the consistency aspect, which is a big deal in the NFL. However, you can't teach 35-inch arms, and you can't teach the high-end tape that Blake Miller has. I loved him in 2023. got scared shitless of him in 2024, and now I'm back much more to liking him in 2025. And if I get to see somebody bounce back from having a pretty shitty year, especially with the year Clemson had, I'm going to show a little bit more favorability than maybe some others will. At number 37 for the New York Giants, Blake Miller would have been on my board there, but Jordan Tyson was the first round selection. It's going to piss a lot of people off. I get it. I understand. But, at the end of the day, you got shit you got to do. But I'm looking at linebacker for this team again. I really like Josiah Trotter. He's young. He's explosive. You have the pass rushing aspect as well that I love in case, whether KT is going to be there for the long haul or not. Josiah Trotter could end up being utilized in certain packages as one of those pass rushers. And I do love his ability to drop into zone coverage. He has some unique bend to him coming downhill that he's a little bit more clunky in space. But a lot of people, again, say this guy is a top 50 player. And so if they're going to say that, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Josiah Trotter, young, dangerous, and, again, redshirt sophomore, 6'2", 240. He might end up testing out in a straight line very, very well. I do think he's more of an underwhelming athlete than maybe that suggests, but he is still a really good player nonetheless. Number 38, Houston Texans, first pick, Caleb Lomu. Remember, we ended up trading up with the Bills to be able to secure our left guard of the future. I think Amari Washington's a great value here. I know it's not the pressing issue over, going after a center like Connor Lew at this point, and this is a very bad center class, but Amari Washington has the ceiling that just makes your jaw drop. I don't like the consistency, but it got better as the year progressed. And even in his worst graded game, which was versus Iowa, time after time after time, I saw Amari Washington dropping my jaw. He was phenomenal, and he got better as the year went on. Like, I had original grades right here with weeks 5 and 7, and I ended up just grading like right here at 11, and it gets better and better with him. And I love that. Was very skeptical at first, but this is someone that you're taking that literally yeets offensive linemen for a living. That is awesome. Amari Washington, not just a gimmick, definitely somebody that's worth the consideration. At 39 for the Cleveland Browns, first pick was Spencer Fano. Second pick was Chris Bell. I just think that we needed to focus on addressing the offensive line at that point. With Spencer Fano on the team, I feel very comfortable with the offensive line state. And again, wide receiver, that was definitely needed. So looking at the best player available, it would be Dylan Thieneman to me. Just based on, my own board. I love Malachi Lawrence. I'm not going to subject him to what this team would utilize him as. Caleb Tiernan, I'm not going to end up getting another quasi-interior offensive lineman. I do think it's not a bad idea, but I honestly think this isn't a bad option for the Browns to trade out to, because with Tiernan available, I do think teams looking for interior offensive line helps with tackle upside, they should definitely be at least considering him as a top tier option. And so there's a couple teams in this mix. The Bengals are one of them. I think they would use him as a guard. Same thing with the Saints, but the Saints have also drafted, tackles in the past like Tali Fuaga that don't have the greatest arm length. So it at least provides some opportunity there with a system that could end up making either work at guard or tackle. And then you also have technically the Jets. I mean, I hope they keep AVT. We'll see what happens. But the Dolphins, and then especially the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens at their guard situation, it's ass, and they have a 6'8" guard there. So it's not impossible. And honestly, I love how the Ravens can be aggressive. They also like to tend to sit and wait and, kind of see what comes to them. So I'm going to end up I was actually going to be aggressive with the Ravens. Ooh. Because I do want to get some movement in here. This is a trades mock draft. Trades happen. I don't feel like the value is great for Cleveland. And I do think there's a limited offensive line quantity to where I do want to make something happen. And right now we're starting to get to the point where it's a little bit too distant. So what's a team? Honestly, we don't want to arm our own in-division rival, of course. I'm going to talk to the Dolphins because I think somebody who can end up playing tackle or interior offensive line is super crucial. I also would talk to the Saints. I do know they get aggressive with things. I mean, Vele, obviously, they sent a 4th round pick for him. That's not a bad idea because it's super short range as well. My goal is just to jump the Bengals at this point. So it's going to be super cheap. I mean, you can toss in 137. You can try to make it a little bit more. Do your thing. I'm not necessarily going to be on board with much more than this, but if I'm the Browns and I get pick 137 for free, essentially, I'm happy with it. So the Saints have made their move. They went Caleb Downs early, and yes, edge rusher is a position of need for them. There's a lot of them in this class. We have pick 73. What we don't have is a quality offensive line that's complete, and I want to invest in our quarterback situation because I'm hoping it continues because there's sophomore slumps happen, right? But hopefully Shuck can end up being serviceable at the very minimum for another year, maybe more. You're not going to be very serviceable if you don't have a good offensive line. And there's a lot of pieces there that I like. I think Caleb Tiernan, the guard tackle flexibility. Also, you had Andreas Pete, so tall guards are not foreign to your system. It can end up really working out for you guys. And I'd never, ever blame a team for going interior offensive line. Number 40, Arizona Cardinals, CC Maui Noah. We already talked about it. I talked about Josiah Trotter, but that's because I felt very comfortable with potentially missing out on him. There's Jacob Rodriguez, Jake Golday, and Anthony Hill Jr. And the question is, again, who's going to be coming in? You got CC Maui Noah to start. Could try to go after Jadarian Price at this point to provide the home run hitting threat. You've done a solid job with veteran backs being somewhat consistently productive, given how talented or lack thereof they are. I'm going to go Jake Golday. This dude can fly in a straight line. He's 6'4", 240. To me, like outside of the acceleration aspect, I think this guy is the second best linebacker in the class. I have him higher than other names that are right here in front of you. So I'm going to go after my guy here. I think Jake Golday is a true Mike who can end up being an elite run defender, and that provides a solid floor for other guys to grow, develop, and impact. Number 41, Cincinnati Bengals. Keldrick Falk was the first-round selection. It kind of is the move at this point. I think you could talk about Dylan Thieneman at this point because it's a super high-ceiling safety. I would be very happy with that. Now, you could talk about Connor Lew as well. The offensive line is kind of strung together to be one of the more underrated units comparatively to what you think. So with Keldrick Falk here, we could also end up going Lee Hunter, Caleb Banks. I don't think there's very many bad options here. James Smith ended up returning to school, but that happened today. I can't get on PFF for that at all. But he's not returning to school. He went to the transfer portal. But I would say, like, you could talk about interior offensive line if you want to just ignore that. I would end up just going best player available. And like it is Caleb Banks at this point, 35-inch arms. It's going to be a little bit more of a project, but this organization likes measurables. They do. And retooling your defensive front with someone who has the ceiling of Caleb Banks is worth at least testing the waters. He was coming into the year as the fourth best defensive interior. Some people had him as the best. I didn't, but it is what it is. Caleb Banks deserves a shot. And this is an interesting range, but if I'm going to trust someone with defensive interior talent, Al Golden's going to be up there in terms of the guys that I think of first. So Caleb Banks going to be the choice there. Number 42 for the Cleveland Browns. So with the Browns, again, we went Spencer Fano and Chris Bell. Very happy with that so far. I do think that it's a proper investment at this point. Again, could have went Caleb Tiernan, just doubled up on the offensive line and, seeing how that went. But I do want to get just quality players, similar to what you guys have done in the past. Just get quality. And Dylan Thieneman's that to me. I mean, he's consistent. He played at Purdue, so he's not like afraid of the harsh climates of the AFC North. He's a hard hitter, really good motor, definitely somebody who I want on my team. And again, I got the extra pick out of it, so very happy with how that ended up coming to be. Number 43, Miami Dolphins. A lot of very good players here. A lot of them. First pick was Mansour Delane. I think the most important thing could be to get a wide receiver here, which there's some very good ones. It's a very interesting range to be because it's like, like Zachariah Branch feels like a Miami Dolphin. I'm not ready yet, but apparently there's first round buzz. I mean, when I start hearing shit like that, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Mateo Uiagalelei has not yet said he's going back to school. And honestly, with the way I saw him destroy Jennings Dunker, it inspires me to give him a credit here to replace Jalen Phillips. I think it's very important to continue investing in your defensive line, and Mateo Uiagalelei would be a very nice way to continue that trend. Number 44 for the New York Jets. First pick was Dante Moore, Denzel Boston, then Christian Miller. Defensive back, to me, with a ball hawk like Emmanuel McNeil Warren, sign me up. Like, go feast. You know what I mean? Earl Little Jr. also ended up returning to the transfer portal. But that's what I'm thinking of. Am I going to be at risk if I move down? The answer is no. So I feel like this is a great opportunity since we don't have any like midday picks to try to do that. Now we could go Jadarian Price though. We could just get our long-term Breece Hall right now. Do we just overload this offense and say fuck the defense? I mean, to be honest, a lot of teams just get their quarterback and say we're just going to focus on defense from then on, and then create a weak-ass offense and try to build a superpower defense and let the quarterback carry. Why do we need the quarterback to carry if we can just have a super-powered offense and then have Aaron Glenn do some shit on defense? We could trade back and still make that happen, but I'm going to start feeling pretty threatened with the Vikings there. Like that would make me very uncomfortable. I'm just going to say let's go for the swing for the fences, man. Let's go on offense. Full offense here. Jadarian Price. Not full offense, obviously, when Christian Miller there. But Jadarian Price. I mean, if you think about it, Denzel Boston, Moore, Price. Those are the three positions you need to lock up for the long haul, right? And you don't even have to piss off Hall to do it. Kind of sounds fun to me. Number 45, Baltimore Ravens. Peter Woods was the first selection. I'm going possibly after a DPR here. Just a quality defensive player. Left guard again. Very, very much at least on the mind. Shout out to Kobe Baines. Love him to death. He and I have been able to talk outside. We were able to text each other. So shout out to him. He seems like a really good kid. Definitely, like as much as I love him, like I think he's a fantastic offensive lineman. I think he's sitting here in like my 40 range. But yeah, he's at number 40 on my board, as a matter of fact. So, like, I really like him. I'm not going to skew the draft for something that, since he's not getting a Shrine or Senior Bowl invite, I don't think he's going to go till day 3. But I do want to give him a shout out nonetheless. A lot of people are going to talk about Jennings Dunker. The more I watched the tape, the less I liked it. He seems like a PFF stat merchant. No disrespect, obviously, to Trev. Love Trev to death. This is in no way saying that Trev doesn't know what he's doing. I have some ballsy takes about players that no one will agree with. And some people agree with the Jennings Dunker thing. So, you know, who am I? So it's just like, yeah, I personally don't agree with it. But we look at the options available for him. We could talk about some wide receiver help here. A possession guy like Elijah Surratt is a very underrated option. I think that they've done a good job overall. Again, you could talk about Austin Searveld. There's no way he comes out. He had a 0 pass blocking grade versus Miami. 0. But I will say, Isaiah World is not a bad option to put him at guard. It's just so early for how poorly he's been playing, if that makes sense. So I don't like the idea of going after guard here. Let's maximize the value of edge. And you got Romello Height here. I like the DPR aspect of that. Not against it. But I do love the idea of Joshua Josephs because he does have like the measurables you'll be looking for, the athleticism, the pedigree. Like, but Akeem Mesidor could be all that. He's older, but this is also a team that needs to maximize what they have. They don't even have John Harbaugh anymore. We're going to Akeem Mesidor, edge rusher out of Miami. He's older, but you need to maximize Super Bowl windows. How many more years are we going to continue like making long-term plays when we need to win? And Akeem Mesidor will help you win over the next 4 to 5 years. It's not like edge rushers are out of their prime the moment they hit 30. Some of them can end up working 31, 32. So I would just end up saying, if you're having a problem with Akeem Mesidor's age as the primary issue, you hit on this pick. It's a second round pick. Not many guys are going to be so consistent that age is going to be their biggest issue. 46 Buccaneers, Sonny Styles with the first pick. Felt like the right thing to do. You look at the edge rushers here, and again, it just feels right. And my goal is to replace Hassan Reddick's role, which is perfect for R. Mason Thomas, Romello Height, as well as Joshua Josephs. Take your pick. I think R. Mason Thomas is the best of the bunch. He is kind of like, to me, I call him like a badger. He looks like he's just tearing through shit. Has a little bit shorter arm length, sub 32 inches, but nothing that's like genuinely disgusting the way that Ruben Bank, Cassius Howell, who were taken earlier, had some issues with sub 31. I think R. Mason Thomas provides that energy that you're looking for too. I'm very happy with it. I don't feel the need to try to big brain it and continue moving down. For the Colts at number 47, this is their first pick. I'm going to go after a ceiling play here. You could have to go after corner. It sounds nuts, but you actually might have to go corner with the way that Charvarius Ward is considering retirement. If he does, I'd be looking at Igbinosun, Julian Neal. Those are the two I'd be targeting right now. And Julian Neal is not a bad option. But the linebacker class is still very good. And I'm going to go after Ant Hill here, who's super young, provides upside as a pass rusher. And again, I don't think he should have come out. That's my take. But he is still a very high quality player who brings a 6'3", 240 frame with even more to put on. 48 for the Atlanta Falcons. Again, their first pick, because their first pick went to the Rams. And you know what? You guys were tied for best in the division and fired your GM and your head coach. So I'm just going to be honest. As much as I wanted to get on Fontenot's ass and stuff and get him out of the building, I thought they did a good job. I don't think they should have gotten fired. That's my take. I'm not saying that I'm correct, but it seems like that's kind of a crazy way to go out, right? Like, you guys won some pretty huge games. I've been notorious for going Jeremy Bernard for this team, and I think I'm going to continue doing that. Now, boundary corner 2 with Julian Neal would be fun, but Jeremy Bernard literally has experience with Michael Penix back at Washington. So it is somebody who's going to be familiar. It's a safe option who provides after the catch ability. He's just a damn good player, and I'm tired of continuously pushing him down when he doesn't need to be. I'm going to give him the love he needs there. 49 for the Vikings. First pick was Jermon McCoy via a trade down. Very happy to be right here at number 49. Again, I want to look at interior offensive line, and Jennings Dunker definitely could be the center of the future. But where the hell did I did? Okay, I'll say I didn't take Connor Lew yet. I'm looking at Connor Lew, and I know there's some guys who are playing center right now. They're doing a good enough job. If you have the opportunity to go Connor Lew here at 49, you take it. Like, you can give him time to rest, and this is just a long-term play here for a super high floor quality center to help out your entire offense. We're going to go Connor Lew there at 49. Number 50, Detroit Lions. Also sticks it to the Lions because I would 100% be wanting to go Connor Lew there. They took Caden Proctor in the first. Edge rusher is just proper value at this point. The question is, which one do you want? I love Dani Dennis Sutton at this point because of the consistency he's brought. This team doesn't need an edge one. They need a really damn solid edge two, in my opinion. And so Dani Dennis Sutton, he brings that type of energy. Again, Big Ten energy. Big fan of that. Number 51, Carolina Panthers. David Bailey was their first selection. And that's a great thing because there's still some quality linebackers here like Jacob Rodriguez, who was pretty much he should have been in the Heisman at least. Could have been the Heisman. So I like the ceiling there. He did get kind of carved up versus Oregon. I saw like one of the first passes, Moore ended up layering a pass beautifully over him. But overall, Rodriguez has done a phenomenal job. Deserves to at least be in the consideration here on day 2, at least in day 2, but here in round 2. Number 52. We got the Green Bay Packers again. Their first pick was Micah Parsons, which the Cowboys have graciously flipped into a multitude of picks. Very happy about that. And they did it in a trade up too, which is like, again, it's a fun idea to play with. So Packers defensive interior wise, I don't think it's out of the realm to go Lee Hunter at this point. This guy's been balling. You guys know me. I've had him as a top 50 player the whole year. I've had my misses, but I also have had my hits. And Lee Hunter is one of them. Believed in him at USCF. And I'm happy to give him support here to save some, frustration with continuously going corner for my Packers fans. I want to be able to give him a little bit of a curveball there and get a good player there in Lee Hunter. 53 for the Steelers. First pick was Casey Concepcion. Very happy with that myself. I think that's just the right way to go about it. Here at number 53, I'm going Davison Igbinosun, cornerback out of Ohio State. There's not many cornerbacks that can provide a lockdown presence the way that Davison Igbinosun can. Like, there's not another cornerback that's available, at least, that provides those lockdown reps. I love Julian Neal. Big fan of him. Again, Keontae Scott is in the nickel. Chandler Rivers probably should be in the nickel. Dalen Everett, super high floor player, but I'm just a little bit worried about the ceiling there. D'Angelo Pons, super fun, but again, you want to have the nickel open for him. Pretty sure Malik Muhammad is going back to school. Like, we're going to consider that for this episode at least, but we're going to go Davison Igbinosun here, boundary corner out of Ohio State. He's built to be in the AFC North. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, and, he needs to get a lot better when it comes to, flags. And he has this year in terms of it being on paper, but I've seen a lot of flags that just weren't called. It's not necessarily indicative of how much he's improved, but I do see the lockdown reps that are just insane. And I really do think you got to take the ceiling play on that if you're the Steelers. Number 54 for the Philadelphia Eagles. First pick was Avion Terrell. We'll see what the edge position looks like. Jalen Phillips is gone, which I think he will be. They're going to be looking at edge, and I think at 68, that's a little bit better value. Damon Wilson also returned today. Again, I can't get mad because this is the same simulator from last time, and God bless them for doing that. I think the Eagles need to look at Eli Raritan at this point. Maybe trading back's a better idea. But first off, how many tight ends have an 80% contested catch rate who are used as a starter all year long? But also somebody who has a high tier run blocking skill set. I think it was worse than last year. I don't think this run blocking grade from PFF is very accurate at all. Let's see. What's Michael Triggs? Okay, well, you know what? That one's accurate. I think Eli Raritan's a good player. He actually ended up moving up higher for me. It's funny. He's a top 30 player on my board. I see the ceiling with him. He can churn and burn. I think he's a true round 2 tight end. A lot of people have him 3rd round. I think that's fair. But I'm going to give him the luck of the draw. To me, he's my tight end 2. I think he fits the Eagles phenomenally well. If you look at his frame, he's 6'7", 252, very well built, solid blocker, has the athleticism, route running a little bit worse than it was last year, but he was still consistently open. And, there was, let's see, what was one of the games that I ended up watching? I ended up watching a lot of them, but I think I was watching the game versus NC State as well as Pitt. There were a lot of plays that he ended up being targeted that the ball got swatted down or the ball's off. And it's he's a damn good tight end. The production doesn't reflect the talent. And he still jumped up tremendously. I'm so happy. I had him tight end 2 with 90 yards receiving coming into the year. And glad he ended up jumping it nearly to 500. 55 for the Los Angeles Chargers. First pick was Vega. And I personally would still love, Jennings Dunker is not a horrible choice at this point just because, it feels like people are going to be on that train. I'm not there personally. Again, after watching him, he's clearly day 3 to me. Edge rusher wise, I think you guys are fine. Nose tackle wise, do we have anybody here? This is a prime trade back spot. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the options available here. Chase Bazontis, I think he ended up declaring today. He's been intriguing to say the least, but I'm not again overwhelmed by the talent at this point. Tight end again, Eli Raritan would have been an interesting consideration. You could try to go after a wide receiver at this point. I think that's more of the intrigue for teams trying to jump the Bills. So who needs a wide receiver? The Niners do. We just drafted offensive lineman for the Niners, and Ricky Made of Glass Pearsall, who never missed a game in college, but is, if I'm not mistaken, but ends up missing a lot of time in the NFL, going to be part of a big amount of reasons why the Niners should be looking. The Jaguars have done such a good job making their wide receiver core complete. Shout out to them. But the Broncos definitely could be very aggressive in this situation. Technically you could talk about the Patriots as well. We're talking about getting a little bit too far from this spot now, but I'm very excited to move up with the Niners here because the Niners, I think, need to just get the player that fits them best. They have a lot of draft capital. It's perfect for the Chargers as well to kind of dish out this draft capital at this point, or to be able to at least absorb some. I'm going to go 164. If you want to go 138, I don't think it's going to make a significant difference. Honestly, actually, I'm going to flop the 2. We're going to go 138. So we're going to move up with that pick number 138. Since it is, a 4-spot move up, I think it's fair. And so the Niners are going to be looking at wide receivers at this point. You got Chris Brazzell for the deep threat ability. I don't think that's going to be something that I'm overly looking at a little too hard. I love Omar Cooper Jr. here. He's been phenomenal for Indiana, and I think he ends up coming out. So, he's been someone who's extremely dynamic. He's made some of the biggest catches. To me, I love the after the catch ability as well. It's somebody that you can provide a lot of value in both the short, medium, as well as even the deep game. Number 56 for the Bills. Their first pick was TJ Parker. Omar Cooper might have been my selection for him just because it's best wide receiver available. But Elijah Surratt's been a baller as well. And I do know an ex-Build receiver is certainly on their radar. Keon Coleman just doesn't seem to be taking the game as seriously as we would all want him to. And so I'm going to go Elijah Surratt, wide receiver out of Indiana. Have those guys go back to back. Number 57 for the Bears. First pick was probably Caden McDonald, which it was. I do think safety, we could try to develop one. And Lord have mercy. Emmanuel McNeil Warren is here. Have him basically become the ball hawk for the future there. I freaking love this guy. Extreme production. He's been phenomenal overall. Deserves to be a round 2 at least pick. And so I'm very happy to send him to Chicago there at 57. 58, Houston Texans, Caleb Lomu, Amari Washington. At this point, I do think Jennings Dunker would be on their radar to just try to slot him in at center, see what happens. I think that how thin the center class is, even with like guys that I love, like Lyndon Cooper returning, it definitely feels like Jennings Dunker could be artificially inflated into the late 2 section. So with a lot of teams in here that would value flexibility as well, let's just not play some games. I'm going to still say that Jennings Dunker could end up being viewed higher than maybe what we think he should. Number 59, though, for the Los Angeles Chargers, speaking of a team that could have ended up viewing him in that light, we still have our first pick as Vega. Again, nose tackle with Darrell Jackson's possible here. I feel very uncomfortable taking him that high. And honestly, I might just go after another edge. I know edge is kind of set for the time being. Like, we have some good impact players. There's some good edges down the board too. But like when you look at someone like Romello Height, Joshua Josephs, like it's very tough to say no. Safety is an option. I think linebacker is an underrated option as well. I think Perriman's up for a contract. Like, there are choices here. And honestly, one of the more underrated ones is a boundary corner. You can never continue to replace them at a rate that, is a little too fast. And I think Julian Neal would be a very fun one. Oh, that's tough. Again, we got Vega here. We could try to go after someone who's like more of a tackle. I actually am going to take a shot on Isaiah World. I'm going to do it. I think he's going to be a guard in the short run, but especially with the fact that both your tackles are coming back from serious injuries, it's sometimes nice to have someone who can fill in a tackle spot as well. So we're going to go Isaiah World there and just end up acquiring the extra draft capital and end up fixing our offensive line piece by piece. And again, his goal is to be a long-term guard, but also have the ability to be a swing tackle, similar to how Marcus Bowe is utilized for the Giants. Number 60 for the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's their first selection of the draft. Normally, I like to go Eli Raridan for them, but no. They just ended up signing their left tackle to a longer-term deal. Granted, it's not. It's a one-year deal with the upside of 3. Just got to throw that out there. But running back-wise, they're doing fine. Offensive line-wise, I do think you could try to upgrade on the interior, but we're kind of siphoning off all that talent. Boundary corner at this point, I'm not against it, especially since we're going to have to, maybe ease back Trav into the system. I'm going to go Julian Neal, defensive back out of Arkansas. Big physical corner, over 6'1", 6'2", 210 pounds. Reliable physical boundary corner. Hard to say no to. 61 for the Rams. First picks, Mekhi Lemon and Colton Hood. Very happy with that. You could try to take a shot on someone like Garrett Nussmeier at this point and reach on a quarterback. I don't think that's a good strategy. I think we can end up doing that at 93 and be perfectly fine. I know Cam Curl's up for a contract, if I'm not mistaken. Again, please feel free to correct me. There's so much new news that I'm trying my best to stay fully up to date. But I'm going to go Zaki Wheatley, defensive back out of Penn State. Dude loves contact, comes downhill, and is an absolute baller. Very reliable player, someone who I have in my top 32 at number 27 on my board. Number 62, New England Patriots. Cassius Howell was the first selection. Again, you can look at the linebackers. Deontay Lawson, definitely someone you should consider. Kyle Lewis, I'm a huge fan of, but I mean, again, he's had his slip-ups respectively, so it's okay to wait. But Deontay Lawson definitely in there. I would end up saying left guard as well. Like if we can end up finding somebody, and again, I'm having Austin Searveld return after that garbage game, but I'm looking at Carter Smith at this point. He's been locked down at left tackle, but it's pretty clear that he belongs as a left guard in the NFL. I love the consistency that he brings, and then you can again kick him in to left guard, put Jared Wilson to center, and call it a day. I think just building the offensive line is the most important thing you can do. And he has that tackle versatility in case you need to kick him out there. 63 for the Denver Broncos. CJ Allen was their first selection. I'm looking at wide receiver at this point. Chris Brazzell, is not awful, but like it's good value. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think that this team stretches the field enough. I would want somebody who's going to be a little bit more dangerous in short range. And that could be Zachariah Branch, and he could provide both of that. I mean, granted, I mean, it looks like he's going to be a round 2 pick. We're going to go Zachariah Branch. Provides returning ability as well. He is somebody who's been very, very good this year as a career resurgent year at Georgia. Thank God. But top tier option here at the late second territory. He has been a lot better this year. Great after the catch, great returning. You're getting someone who could impact you far more than just being a wide receiver. Number 64 for the Seahawks, Brandon Cisse was the first selection. Again, very few picks. I would try to trade out at this point. Some very good edge rushers are here. Definitely could argue going after one. Even Deontay Lawson at this point would be very, very good value. What I need to do is think about, what do we need? How far back can we go? So my goal is to get that right guard spot filled. Brian Parker, definitely on my short list of dudes I'd want to put into there. Drew Shelton's a very good fallback option. Cage Casey actually he's a very good choice. Honestly, at 96, Cage Casey would be someone who I'd be very open to. Trey Zune. Maybe we could ignore that guard spot. That sounds crazy to say, but just stay with me. I feel like linebacker is almost more of a pressing issue based on the fact that I think Deontay Lawson deserves a lot of love. And I think I might just try to make a super small trade back at this point because I'm worried that the Raiders would be like, give me some Lawson, man. Or you'd even talk about the Texans. They also could be looking for one of those linebacker talents. So do we have any incentive for the Titans to move up? The Titans so far need edge rusher especially, which technically speaking, I do think that the Cardinals will be looking at least for a top-tier edge option like Joshua Josephs at this point. So if we do end up missing out on Josephs, there's a lot of other options. I feel pretty comfortable sitting with the Titans in that case. Is there something that we could trade back to? That's a bigger question. Like, can we end up missing out? The answer is yes, but I just don't think the talent drop-off is going to justify it. We're after getting Brandon Cisse in round 1, we're going Deontay Lawson here. We're going to address guard at 96. Number 65 for the Cardinals, CeCe Mauigoa, Jake Golday, the first selections. I still like getting a deep threat. With Chris Brazzell available, I mean, you're just continuing to give weapons with Michael Wilson doing well, Marvin Harrison doing his thing, even though he hasn't been what we wanted him to be. I still think it's definitely in there. I think Chris Brazzell could end up providing a lot of awesome deep threat opportunities, and he's also 6'5", so you're not going to be getting a little Muju in the room. You're going to get someone who is really properly sized and a deep threat. I think that group actually provides a lot of opportunity for whatever quarterback you end up slotting in there. Maybe Malik Willis. Try to do Jacoby Brissett again, but I think Chris Brazzell would be a nice touch. Number 66 for the Titans. I was just thinking about it. It's like, look at all these edge options. Why am I going to be giving up on it? First pick, Carnell Tate. Second pick, Keith Abney or Chris Johnson, depending on how Cowboys fans feel about said pick. Either way, you guys are winners in that equation. I'm looking at Malachi Lawrence at this point. This is someone who I have taken a big liking to. He is at the Shrine Bowl. He was one of their early invites as well. So it wasn't somebody that's like, well, we need to fill in the roster, and so we're going to do it. Malachi was one of the guys who are much earlier on, and he is 260 pounds, 35-inch arms. He's going to test well, 19.6% pass rush win rate. Got to give him credit where credit's due. He's also going to be here in Dallas. Hopefully can end up actually making some time. We can end up having an in-person conversation. That'd be super fun. But Malachi Lawrence going to be the selection there for the Titans. Number 67, Las Vegas Raiders, Fernando Mendoza, Blake Miller. Need to focus on the defense as well. Joshua Josephs, Romello Height here. It's kind of hard to say no. There's some very talented players. Talk about Big Citrus. Is Big Citrus even? I think he's out of eligibility, but can end up just sending him to Penn State, just like every other freaking guy from there. But offensively, I feel perfectly fine at this point, developing the guys that you have and seeing how the rest pan out. Corner, I think you guys maximize talent very well. Safety's pretty ass. Getting a free safety is pretty important. Genesis Smith ended up coming out. I think Genesis is a little bit more of a strong safety build, but 6'2", 204. I'm not mistaken. Where was he at? So he's a little bit of a split. I remember seeing some reps of him in the box too, but he's a fun player. I would say that round 4 might be a little bit better for, that territory. Again, Halsey is going to be a little more of the strong type. So that's why I'm a little bit worried. The player I would be willing to in this range would be Keon Saab, who does have a pretty solid, his pretty solid record right now. Like he's doing a very good job overall in terms of making some splash plays, being there at the tackle point. I'd personally try to move down to select him. And honestly, I think that's probably the better move. So who's worth moving up for? I don't see any teams that are like desperate for a safety at this point either. I mean, you could talk about the Commanders, but what are the Commanders doing round one? Arvell. They could be in the mood for AJ Halsey. That is something to be concerned with, especially now that their offensive line coach and their offensive coordinator are both out of the building. I'm not going to roll the dice. I was thinking of Keon Saab. Apologies. I was like, I'm not gonna risk that. But Keontae Scott is here. We got to find a reason for a team to trade up, to trade down, right? Like that, you have to make it make sense for both sides. And again, a top tier pass rusher. I don't know if I could sell myself on. Well, AJ Halsey for the Browns is not a bad idea, but I thought I went Dylan Thieneman for him earlier. So if I did, which I did, I was like, it would make sense. It doesn't make sense anymore. I feel like you just have to bite the bullet, but the Eagles as well could end up going after a safety. So you know what? We're going to go after Keon Saab. I feel like Halsey or Saab would be taken in that range. And so sometimes you just got to take the guy earlier than you want. 68 for the Eagles, Avion Terrell, Eli Raridan, two very crucial positions to address. The right tackle spot, there's just not many guys here that I feel very comfortable with. I love Emil Wagner there at round number 3 because he's about 6'6", 300 pounds. I don't know why the fuck he came out. Like, I saw him pop up, and you know what? We're just going to do this on the fly. Like, Emil Wagner. Like, he ended up just going to the Shrine Bowl out of nowhere. Like, he's a true junior. So, you guys, apparently I got a like. But, I mean, he's just going to the NFL draft. Like, that's just kind of crazy to me. So, maybe he's getting some good notes. Maybe this is a good range for him to go. Like, some players just go to the Shrine to dominate. And he's a true junior. He is coming out early. You know what? This is my dream location for him. He's a super athletic right tackle that could end up kicking into guard for a short range as well. I like the utility he brings. And at number 98, I do feel comfortable with some of the edges there as well. So we're going to go after Emil Wagner at 68. 69 for the Texans. Lomu, Washington, Dunker. Kind of is the run of the mill. Tight ends underrated for them. You know, you could talk about Justin Jolie, Michael Trigg. That'd be pretty damn fun to bring in. Running back, you do have Jonah Coleman. LJ Martin is a dark horse candidate for this team. He's a young, physical, heavy back that can carry a lot of times. And it does complement your more older Woody Marks that you just ended up acquiring. So I do like that. He does have some home run hitting ability as well. Like, I'm trying my best to keep some things fresh, give you guys a little bit of a change of pace. I love Jamari Taylor. Just got to throw that out there. Jamari Taylor's a very good back. I wish, where's the UTSA back? Okay. So they've done a good job. Shout out to PFF for putting in a good amount of backs, but there's still some guys in here that are missing. Surprised Terry and Stewart declared, but Jamari Taylor is someone who I think would be a good back as well. But I do want to start pushing up some guys because I think LJ Martin's going to go higher than expected. He's a true junior who's declaring, who has a great frame, and he's going to test out very well. So we're going to go LJ Martin to pair up with Woody Marks for the long haul. Number 70 for the Browns, Spencer Fano, Chris Bell, Dylan Thieneman. At this point, I mean, you can end up going after more offensive line talent. Again, you can go after a Trey Zune, a Cage Casey. You could try to figure that situation out. But to me, with AJ Halsey, the value is there. Oh my God. I just ended up drafting a second safety. I'm tripping. We just drafted Thieneman. Guys, I'm not going to redo this whole entire thing. We're going to fix this on the fly. We're going Keontae Scott, cornerback out of Miami, nickelback. Okay. We're not going after AJ Halsey. Fuck that shit. You know what? We're going AJ Halsey for the Commanders. So we're just swapping these two really quick. The Commanders ended up going after, I know they went after Arvell Reese early on. We're going to go after more of a safe pick with AJ Halsey. So we're flopping these two, just for those of y'all who are wondering. AJ Halsey, the Commanders pick, Keontae Scott, the Browns pick, a super high floor dynamic nickel who has been extremely physical, very good versus the run. Again, swap those 2 picks, please. I just saved myself by the fact that the Commanders need AJ Halsey. Thank God. Number 72, though, we're going to scroll down so people can't see that mistake. We have the Bengals, and so far, they've gone after Keldrick Falcon, Caleb Banks. Very excited about that. I'm going to still look on the offensive line side of things. You do have like Jake Slaughter in here. I don't think offensive lines, again, as pressing of a need as what some people think. But it's still worth considering with some guys like Cage Casey who have dealt with some unique climates. They also are extremely talented at left tackle, but should be kicking into guard at the next level. Like, I do think that's certainly something that you can consider. But looking at other positions, like running back, providing someone like Jonah Coleman at this point, a like reliable, underrated power back behind Chase, that's not a bad idea. And he is a very physical back. And he looks sick in terms of the thumbnail I made with him. We're going to go Jonah Coleman, running back out of Washington there at 72. At 73, we have the New Orleans Saints. And they've selected Caleb Downs and Caleb Tiernan. 2 of my top 10 players of the class. I love them to death. But we're going to go and look at the wide receivers at this point. Because, again, my goal is to maximize the talent of the offense. And this is a good range for some of these players, right? So some players who I think deserve to go in this range. We're looking at Jacoby Lane. He declared. That's not a bad idea. You got CJ Daniels, who's going to be a little bit more of the shorter range guy. He's been very reliable, extremely reliable at the contested catch game. I mean, he makes some highlight reel plays, but he does feel like a little bit more of like a final piece. So I'm going to feel a little bit less open to that. Antonio Williams is going to go higher than expected. This guy was a potential first-round pick. He's a dynamic, dangerous weapon who ended up getting hurt early on in the year. So I think Antonio Williams deserves to be in this range. And to be honest, I mean, he flashed. He had the it factor coming into the year. 5'11", 190. He's pretty much the cheap version of Mekhi Lemon. And I think that's a good place to be at 73. 74 for the Cowboys, Reuben Bain Jr., Chris Johnson, the selections. Again, linebacker's a big one for him. They do have some good choices here, but this is where I'd want to trade back. I've been doing a lot of trading up. It's time to start kind of like recomping via a move down. And again, you got Jacoby Lane here. You got some quarterbacks that are starting to be at least somewhat viable. And with the Dolphins needing a quarterback, this is where they're probably going to take one. Is there another team that would be open to it, right? The Steelers could try to make a small move up here. Again, you got Nussmeier back. Oh, fuck my life. Yeah, I do. Jesus. I mean, I don't know if I even want to take one for those teams. Ugh. I mean, but Joshua Josephs, Romello Height, those guys are still here. You got Big Citrus that's on the table. Again, you got CJ Daniels, Michael Trigg, some really good tight ends. Honestly, tight end is not immune for the Dolphins here. And I actually think it's a good idea for the Buccaneers to get a little bit aggressive. There's a couple teams in here I definitely think should be getting aggressive for a tight end. One of them honestly being the Jaguars too. Like, what the hell happened to the Giants, by the way? What happened to their 3rd round pick? Who ended up fucking up the Giants? I totally forgot what the hell happened with the Giants pick, who they ended up sending that 3rd for. But definitely think that the Giants need to be focusing also on a tight end. So regardless, I definitely think that we're going to be making a small deal. It would whether be Tampa Bay or Jacksonville. Jacksonville has a good amount of draft capital. Not a bad team to trade with. Tampa doesn't. I think Tampa might be a little bit more tame. So we're going to get a little aggressive with Jacksonville here. For a 7-spot move up, I think 166, in my opinion, will be perfectly fine. It's nice to be able to have a little bit extra cushion there. And so the Cowboys have moved back. The Jaguars have moved up. They selected Julian Neal there in the 1st. And here at this point, you got Max Clare, you got Michael Trigg. I love the after the catch ability of Michael Trigg at this point. The highlight reel plays, he's worth taking a huge, crazy swing on. And it's fun to like utilize him with the balanced receiving core that you already have. And honestly, would have been my pick there for the Dolphins, who have taken Mansour Delane and Mateo Uiagalelei. I think that building the defense is most important. At this point now, you want to go after some more key offensive weapons. Honestly, Jacoby Lane feels pretty damn good at this point. He is 6'4", 200 pounds. He's young. He's fluid. Would be probably my pick for the Steelers to pair up with, KC Concepcion and just have a reliable young baller receiver core. So we're going to go it there for the Dolphins. Steelers have gone Igbinosun and Concepcion so far. We have a lot of picks to do whatever we want. I think with potentially Herbig, we'll see if he wants to get a contract. I know that Trev has, funnily enough, talked about some trades of him to, even the Buccaneers. I do think we're in a position that we're just going to go after best player available. And Romello Height could definitely be in that equation. I'm going to go Joshua Josephs with his 34-inch arms and, just the consistency he brings as a pass rusher there from Tennessee. Number 77 for the Buccaneers. Sonny Styles, R. Mason Thomas. Very happy with that combination. I do think that tight end is probably your next route, and Max Clare easily could be that choice. But to me, Justin Jolie is an absolute savage. He's been someone who I had as a top 5 tight end the whole time. And I think that at his frame as well, which is unique, 263, definitely somebody that you can end up betting on and, taking of that respective risk. 78 for the Colts. Anthony Hill Jr. was your first selection. Again, I want to start considering corner here because of the fact that you might end up losing your corner, Jafarius Ward, to concussions. But, Alec Pierce, hopefully he ends up staying. If he does not, Ted Hurst is a pretty good option in terms of the speed and the route running skill to be able to replace him. Not here at 78. I do have him as a top 100 grade, but I don't think he ends up going in the top 100. Again, just my personal opinion. I do think with the talent on the board, we're going to have to go after some defensive interior talent here. Big Citrus is going to be my selection. 99% sure that he has not decided to go back to school. I've been trying to keep my eyes on the portal as much as possible. If I make a mistake, I do apologize. I try my best. I know PFF's board for this is not fully updated. So, again, there could just be a mistake that pops up here and there. I do try my best. But 79, Atlanta Falcons. I'm actually going to go for Darrell Jackson Jr. here. When Jeremy Bernard, wide receiver out of Alabama in the first. I'm going to get a monster nose plug here with Darrell Jackson in the third and just call it quits because you need a true nose tackle. It's good to build that foundation. And again, we've gone 2 safe picks for the team that provide very good value. Ravens, Peter Woods, Akeem Mesidor. Freakish defensive line, which is something you guys have not had in a hot minute. So don't try to complain about that. Y'all need the help. We're going to go after offensive line. And again, I was talking about it earlier. I actually am a big fan of the idea of going after someone like Trey Zune to play guard, but also Cage Casey. I think he'll be actually a legitimate starting quality guard, maybe like a fringe starting quality guard, but good mobility, someone that you can just kind of rely on there on the interior. And again, has that tackle experience to kick out. 81 for the Cowboys, Ruben Bain and Chris Johnson, their first selections. We got an extra pick, number 160 in the equation. I like that. Again, you can rely on that being just something that you can just, take it and forget it. It's good to have that balance of picks. Emmett Johnson's a possibility here. I don't like his long speed. I don't think he's going to test out too well, but definitely something where if you want to go after that 3rd round pick in that range, not bad. Linebacker, I definitely think it's a good option, but it's very tough to find a linebacker that, in my opinion, will be worth it in this range. This is something that I think we should end up waiting a little bit more. I love Kyle Lewis. The Cowboys are not the team for Kyle Lewis, in my opinion. I just don't really find it to make sense. Wide receiver, don't really see it. You could talk about right tackle here, but again, it's not a good tackle class. You're just going to get yourself someone who's even worse than a Johnny Cornelius. Have we gotten corner yet? We did with Chris Johnson. Not really in the mood to go another one. Safety-wise, the value is not there. So ultimately, I do think we're going to start circling around. Honestly, there's actually not very many good picks here. I was kind of hoping that we'd end up landing on something a little bit more consistent. And honestly, the thing that I feel more attracted to now than ever is kind of moving back. There is the running back option there with Emmett Johnson. A lot of people love him. We'll go Emmett Johnson. Emmett Smith to Emmett Johnson right there. Pick number 81 for the Cowboys. 82 for the Vikings because it probably would have been my pick. Jermon McCoy, Connor Lew, their first selections. I still want to look at running back here because I think this is a good range for him to go. I cannot go Mike Washington in the first 3 rounds because he has 7 fumbles over the past 2 years. Jamari Taylor's a savage. He's 5'9", 204, but he reminds me a lot of LaQuint Allen / Kyle Monangai. Bowling ball. It's not bowling ball build. I think he'll end up testing out way better than that. But Just he's so damn good. It's very hard just to say like anything bad about him. Safety wise, I just don't really think. Again, you got Genesis Smith there. I'm not really in the mood to go after any of those guys. Defensive interior wise, I mean, again, I don't think anybody's worth it at this point. So I think going after a running back's not a bad idea. And we're gonna go Jamari Taylor. Well, Katron Allen feels like the more like possible back because I know that Connor was saying he's kind of just like locked into a late day 2 pick. He is an absolute beast when it comes to just guaranteed yardage. Let's roll with it. 83, Carolina Panthers. First pick, David Bailey. Second pick, Jacob Rodriguez. Do we just go Romello Height? That's not even a joke. I mean, genuinely speaking, you can bring back David Bailey and Romello Height. That's not crazy. Like, it's genuinely something I'm thinking about. And I know your edge core is not that bad, but it is like you have that instant chemistry that's just pretty hard to find. And Romello is an elite pass rusher. So you're only having him there for pass rushing downs. But I do think you would need a little bit more of like someone of the Gabe Akis realm, LT Overton, Zion Young when he's not, getting arrested, Derek Moore, like a little bit more, Jason Barham even. Yeah, I think it's going to be a little more run focused than anything for your next defensive line pick. So we got the linebacker, we got the edge. Safety wise, I just don't think the value is there. I don't think we could try to develop a corner into a safety. That's just a ballsy move that I'm not ready for. I'm going to go Max Clare here, tight end of Ohio State. Well, Eli Stowers is here as well. He is somebody that you definitely should be at least open to. He's been a dynamic weapon. Jack Endries was really solid for Texas. I think he's somebody that you can consider. Any of these top tight ends, I'm going to go with my highest graded one, which is Max Clare out of Ohio State, and let me know what you think. Green Bay Packers, 84. They went Lee Hunter there in the first. I'm going Velcro Pons here in the third. Or I said in the first. Their first pick, second round. I'm going to go Velcro Pons here at 84. I know we're kind of tired of Nichols playing boundary, but D'Angelo Pons is a very good corner. And just because he gets bitched by Jeremiah Smith, I mean, everybody does. So Velcro ends up at least putting up a damn good fight. 85, Pittsburgh Steelers, Concepcion, Igbinosun, and Josephs. Again, really good group of players. I think you could invest on the interior of the offensive line at this point. Looking at players who I think would end up fitting, you could, again, talk about Drew Shelton. Trey Zune's not a bad one to have, but it is tough. I really liked Parker Brailsford, but he has had a bit more of a struggle year. So it is kind of tough justifying that move. Wide receiver, honestly, at this point, not a bad choice either. We got KC Concepcion. I'd want someone who's a little bit more physical on the boundary. And Malachi Fields has raving reviews from his teammates. He still is above near 50% contested catch rate. I think Malachi Fields is a good pick. He's a reliable blocker. I think he's one of the highest press coverage wide receivers that face press coverage. And he still did a phenomenal job overall. He ended up having only 630 yards, but he was a very big piece of Notre Dame's passing offense. I'm going to go with that for the Steelers at 85. 86 for the Chargers. Vega and Isaiah World. Very happy with how that turned out. We're going to go defensive interior here and look for the guy who ends up giving us the most bang for our buck. I'm going to look at Brandon Cleveland on the interior of the defensive line. He's 6'4", 315. He's not going to be a true nose at all, but he's somebody who provides a lot of athletic foundation for somebody who is really, really good. He's going to ball out at the Shrine Bowl. We'll see if he ends up making, a big enough impact to make a movement there. 87 for the Miami Dolphins. Mansour Delane, Mateo Uiagalelei, Jacoby Lane. That's a good spot. I think this is the time where we could start talking about even with Mansour possibly needing to go into the nickel. I wouldn't want to get a nickel with Kamari Ramsey. That'd be pretty tough. So I'm not going to do that. But you can talk about Dante Corleone here. I'm not a big guy on that. Romello Height at this point too. I mean, the value is impeccable. I mean, I would just try to make a move up maybe with another team who wants to go after a pass rusher. Like, any team want to get ballsy? It's too far for any of them. But I would say quarterback at this point, you need to take a shot where you can. And, Garrett Nussmeier challenging Quinn Ewers doesn't sound like the worst thing in human history. So we're going to go after that. He'll be at the Senior Bowl, and a lot of scouts loved him. It's possible that in the third round, why not throw the dart? 88, Bills, Parker, and Surratt, wide receiver and edge, respectively. Linebacker, this is where I'm going to take a shot on Kyle Lewis. I think you need to have a defensive system where there's enough forgiveness to let Kyle Lewis have his respective wins and losses. He's been phenomenal overall, just ended up getting carved up by Malachi Toney, which is bound to happen. 89, Chicago Bears, Caden McDonald and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. I think edge rusher is the next move. Romello Height just doesn't really fit the archetype of what Dennis Allen goes after, which is 6'5", 260 plus. Guess who is that? Well, I guess Gabe Akis is 6'3". Who's 6'5"? I know that Zion Young is, but that's going to be tough to be able to sell at the moment with him getting arrested and all that. Like LT Overton, he is 6'5". Yeah, there you go. LT Overton, good value. It fits the Dennis Allen build. You got to be able to work within the parameters of what's realistic. Niners, Emmanuel Pregnon, Omar Cooper Jr. I would look at defensive interior for this team. I know you guys have talked about it, but I'm going to go after some quick pass rush help here. Romello Height is impeccable value. We're going to go with him at 90. 91, back with the Dolphins, Jacoby Lane, Garrett Nussmeier, Mansour Delane, Mateo Uiagalelei. Tight end with Eli Stowers, it actually adds up for this team too. Let's get a gadget weapon here, see how it ends up working out. 92 for the Jags. They moved up for Michael Trigg and have Julian Neal as well. For me, I like the fact that we've addressed those respective positions. I think those are the biggest ones. And at this point, you're just getting developmental players. So like the ones that provide the most value. I mean, you can talk about Parker Brailsford here. I love the work ethic. He is somebody who's had a little bit of a down year, but he declared for the draft. Definitely someone you want to focus on. Logan Jones has been phenomenal in terms of the statistics. Logan Jones, someone that you might want to sit for a year and then have a long-term vision for. We're going to go Logan Jones, center out of Iowa there. Number 93 for the Rams, Mekhi Lemon, Colton Hood, Zaki Wheatley. I could try the quarterback hand with, a Klubnik or a Beck. That's not the worst thing in the world. But let's look at some other options right now. I do think you could try to maybe develop an offensive tackle. You talk about Max Ianker. Again, Trey Zune on the interior of the offensive line is not a horrible idea just for depth, but we could go back to the corner realm because I do want to just continue to make some dart throws. There are some players in here that, I feel like we could end up utilizing in particular roles. Chandler Rivers, for example, is extremely smart. And I think he'd be a good addition for the Rams. Going BPA is never a bad idea. So we're going to go Chandler Rivers there at 93. 94, New England Patriots. You got Cassius Howell and Carter Smith. Not flashy, but just damn good. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So here at the end of the third, again, I'm not a fan of the linebacking room at the moment. There's a lot of good ones. We've kind of siphoned them all off. Not against going multiple edges, but I'm not going to put that as my priority. You could talk about defensive interior here. There's a lot of high ceiling ones. You can talk about Skylar Gill Howard. I don't know if he's coming out. Is he coming out? I mean, he ended up being hurt early, so we'll see if he ends up doing that. But that's a really good player, nonetheless. A very good player. So keep your eyes open on him. Gabe Akis is not a horrible choice at this point. And again, we already went for someone to be the left guard. Max Ianker would be just the future at right tackle. Tight end's not a bad choice at this point either. In my opinion, it's not bad. Wide receiver, I think we need to trade out of this. I'm sorry, guys. I want to be able to get you guys somebody cool. Well, Kamari Ramsey, he is a nickel, but he did perform better at safety. But you can end up just utilizing him wherever you want. I trust the defensive mind here. We're going to go Kamari Ramsey, defensive back out of USC. 95 Denver Broncos, CJ Allen, Zachariah Branch. Anybody else from Georgia? Dalen Everett? No, I'm not going to do that. But, we got our wide receiver. We got our linebacker. Those are the key positions for me. I do like the idea of developing an offensive lineman at this point as well. I'm assuming Monroe Freeling's returning to school. Just based on the fact that we're not doing anything in the playoffs and a lot of money is there in college. So you could also talk, running back's not out of the question. You could talk about Nick Singleton at this point, and I wouldn't mind it. We're going to go Nick Singleton. We're going to take the ceiling play. People thought of him as a true first round back. He's still going to be someone who flies in a straight line at 6 foot 220. This dude's a freak, but again, now I would say the Seahawks would have been my next selection for him, who they are here at 96. They took Brand Sisse, Deontay Lawson, and Again, you could talk about the running backs here. I'm going to look at the interior offensive line, and this is where I'm actually going to go after Brian Parker, the right tackle from the Duke Blue Devils, and put him at right guard. Really good mobility. To me, still a little bit more of a day 3 guy, but good nonetheless. Vikings, Katron Allen, Connor Lew, Jermod McCoy. Defensive interior would be where I focus next. I don't like the options here. I do see some really good edge rushers, which is why I'm going to get aggressive with the Kansas City Chiefs. Where the fuck did I put those guys? Where the hell are they? The Chiefs, their next pick is 146. The fuck? Damn, I really screwed them over. Because I traded up from pick 18. There's a lot of good edge rushers in this class, honestly, and I already said they're going to be going after the floor play. Damn. I was really hoping for that, but the Eagles are going to be looking at an edge next. Is there another team that I think should be making a move for an edge? The Titans, what do we do with them at the start of this round at edge when Malachi Lawrence could go and double up? Because there is definitely a range of talents that is there. The Jets need to move up for an edge. We've ignored it for a hot minute. There's a lot of late picks here. I'm going to give 204 in this equation. I'm going to ask for a future 6, maybe get a future 7 back. So again, play with the picks as much as you want. I think that, for the Vikings, it's not that big of a move. For the Jets, who have now addressed offense 3 out of their 4 picks, we need to at least invest a little bit on a defensive move, and especially one that can defend the run at edge. Now, Derek Moore is a really good one. Jason Barham is a good one. Max Llewellyn is another good one. Gabe Akis is a savage. I mean, I love the fact that he finally ended up taking a big step up this year, because it started out pretty rocky and ended up taking off. And it's good to see that. It's good to have that physical foundation there. We're going to go Gabe Akis for the Jets. At 98 for the Eagles, Emil Wagner, Eli Raridan, Avion Terrell. I'm going to be looking at the edge core as well. Derek Moore, I really, really like what he brings in terms of that pass rushing ability. I like Jason Barham for the run defense. We're going to go after Derek Moore, edge rusher out of Michigan. 99 for the Steelers. Casey Concepcion, Dave Znigbonosin, Joshua Josephs, Malachi Fields. We can go for, Cade Klubnik at this point. I don't think that's a bad move. Cade at this point is at least, competitive. I just want to look at some other players who are BPA. You could talk. We don't need we don't need wide receiver. That's for sure. We don't need to go after tight end. Interior offensive line, we've sucked the life out of that. Running back wise, we just hope to develop there. So honestly, it's not a bad idea. Let's go after quarterback. We're going to go after Cade. I think Carson's been significantly worse. Cade has been underwhelming to say the least, but I mean, he still is a solid enough quarterback that has had, at least passable games. And to me, third round, I would end up saying he's about 110, 120 on my board. So it makes sense. And at 100 for the Jaguars, you guys know I like to trade out of this spot when I can. Jack Endries is here. I think he's done a solid enough job to garner at least some type of attention. And, looking at teams that would want a tight end, I think the Giants should make that move. It's super short range trade. I think I'll go 143. Ooh, that's pretty tough. We're going to go, let's see, 192 and get 244 back. You can end up, again, adjust that all you want. But we're going to make that small move there for the Giants to move up and select their tight end of the future, which is Jack Endries. So let me know what you think. We apparently earned a reward. It says it every time. I've never gotten a reward. And it's my account. But that's the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, showing the love you always do. I'm going to go and work out now at 10 o'clock at night. Love you. See you later. Peace.